Okay, friends, here is one more interview from the management of Granules India, and the executive director Priyanka Chigurupati throws some light on the future prospects of the company and the future plans of the company. Quite an interesting interview, worth having a look if you are invested on the stock or if you are planning to invest in the stock. It's worth having a look on the future prospects of the company.
Well, I have spoken to a couple of industry experts as well as my sources who have indicated that the bulk drug prices of the painkiller paracetamol have risen in India by 75 to 85% just in the past 2 to 3 months. Now they've risen from levels of around 350 to 400 rupees per kg to 650 to 700 rupees per kg. Now the reason is because of two key raw material prices spiking, which is para-aminophenol or PAP and acetic anhydride. Now, para-aminophenol or PAP prices have risen over 60% just in the past 2 to 3 months. It's risen to $4 to $6.50 per kg versus $4. And remember, that's bulk of what goes into production of paracetamol. Separately, acetic anhydride, over 65% rise in prices that we've seen, all the way to around $1,000 per ton versus $600 just since the past 1 to 1.5 months. The reason is because of supplies from China. So one of the largest suppliers of PAP in China has seen its factory shut down in the past couple of months. Also, the likes of reasons such as the snowstorm in Texas, which resulted in a surge in demand from China in terms of supplies. Stocks such as Granules are in focus because 25 to 30% of their total production is from paracetamol APIs and formulations. In fact, let's take this conversation forward. We have with us Priyanka Chigurupati, who is the executive director of Granules India subsidiaries, which is Granules USA and Granules Pharma, who joins in to discuss this and a lot more. Priyanka, hi, welcome to the show. If you could just start by telling us whether or not we have seen a rise in bulk prices of paracetamol and how much, if so.
Hi, Ekta. Good afternoon. So yeah, we have seen a significant increase in the prices of paracetamol, bulk API, up to the range of 75-80%. So you rightfully pointed out that it's the prices went up from 350, at least in the domestic market, to today they're at around 600, that range. And this is primarily, like you rightfully said, because of increase in PAP price. One of the Chinese facilities has shut down for maintenance and requirements by the PCB in the December timeframe. And this is a company that produces that about 46% of the overall PAP capacity in the world, and about 35 to 40% of the PNCB requirement for PAP. So you can see, you just understand the quantum of disruption that was caused by this facility alone. Outside of that, the Chinese themselves have also increased captive consumption of PAP because of an increase in demand for paracetamol. So that has also led to a disruption in terms of supply from the Chinese in itself. But for us, we've always believed in having dual sourcing. So we do have an ongoing supply of PAP to take us for the next couple of months, quarters. And we have had sufficient levels of inventory for the last couple of months that has enabled us to continue supply to our existing customers. Another reason is also the prices of acidic anhydride. The prices of acidic anhydride have gone up by about 160%, which is a direct increase due to the increase in acidic acid prices. And this has happened because of a shutdown in some facilities in Singapore and the US by one major supplier because of COVID and just other maintenance activities. So the prices of acidic anhydride have gone up by about 165% from the October timeframe. So this has overall led to a significant increase in the cost of manufacturing of paracetamol and in turn the prices of paracetamol.
Okay. All right. Priyanka, just a two-part question. What does this mean for you? Do you pass it on to your customers, or because you have long-term contracts with your customers, fixed contracts with your customers, you probably can't pass it on and hence you probably have to take a hit on your books? One. And two, do you expect the prices to probably revert back to the earlier levels? Do you think that this is just a temporary phenomena, or are we working with higher prices of paracetamol?
Okay, I'll take the second question first, and then I'll answer the first question. I do see this to be a little bit of a blip for us over the next quarter or two. But that said, I think for us, we have other products that will make up for this gap, and our year-end target guidance will definitely be met. But that said, with respect to PAP in itself, there are about 3 to 5 PAP suppliers coming on board within the next couple of quarters in itself, some of them being Indian. And we have about 60,000 metric tons of PAP capacity coming up within the next couple of quarters, which is how much the Chinese supplier used to manufacture. So within the next few quarters or even months, there will be a lot of excessive supply of PAP in the world. And I do think that the prices will definitely stabilize going forward. Now, when it comes to us being able to pass on price increases, see, we do pass on price increases. We have formula-based pricing with most of our strategic partners, and they have been able to take up most of these price increases. But that said, the prices have increased to a level that some of the end customers might not accept. So as long-term partners, we are taking some of that cost into our books as well. But again, I don't see this to be happening for more than another quarter or two at the most, because I know that the Chinese supplier is going to be back by July, that July-September timeframe. So I think the prices will definitely go back to what they were pre-disruption levels, and I think the whole market should stabilize by then.
All right, Priyanka, so you're saying that it could be a blip for a couple of quarters, but expecting things to normalize post that. Priyanka, give us a couple of details. You said that y'all are working on backward integration, if I got that correct, and y'all will be having your own PAP facility as well that will come on stream. When does that happen? If you could give us a broad time range.
So I'm not saying that we have our own PAP facility at this moment, but we have short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans in place. See, the thing is, we are tying up on a very strategic front with some partners to make sure that we underwrite their entire quantities, and that's the medium-term strategy. Now, long-term, unless you have a disruptive technology of PAP, which we have at a lab scale, I don't think it necessarily makes sense to make PAP with the existing technology. Because like I said, there is going to be an excess amount of PAP in the world. And unless you have a really great cost positioning that will come in from some sort of a disruptive technology, I don't think it makes sense to set up your own PAP. So that is a more, I would say, 3 to 5 year strategy for us. But at the moment, we don't have anything on paper. I think tying up strategically with 1 or 2 suppliers is definitely what the short to medium term strategy is. And this is a company that we can call our own indirectly.
Okay. Priyanka, well, based on the fact that China itself is, one of the key reasons that we've seen these prices rise of, the raw materials that go into paracetamol, that kind of indicates that maybe that China +1 factor is probably not worked out as anticipated, which was the anticipation post-COVID. Is that the case? Are there any sort of other suppliers which are coming into the fray when it comes to these kind of raw materials? And what are you doing in particular to probably hedge yourself, at least for the near future? We know your long-term plans. I'm talking about the near future.
Yeah, this is $1 million question for everybody today. Let me just take you a step back. For us as Granules, because we've always focused on a few molecules and we focused on being as backward as possible, we have been secured on many fronts. This need to be 100% backward integrated, I don't think is possible for large volume manufacturers or any suppliers, any manufacturer, because there are certain skills that countries have, the Chinese have developed over years, and you need thousands of tons of capacity for PAP, for example, to be able to meet the costing that the Chinese have. So I do think that for us, the short-term strategy has definitely strengthened, and actually it is this whole China +1 strategy has entrenched our internal strategy, especially for the last 3 to 5 years. If you look at our investor presentation, you'll see that a majority of our R&D spend has been going towards these large volume molecules and being as backward integrated as possible. So where we can't do everything ourselves, we are tying up with some companies, some smaller companies who have 1-2 products and are able to take advantage of the PLI scheme and are 100% dedicating their entire supply to us. So for very key molecules, we are going as backward as possible.
Okay.
And that will be the strategy going forward for us as well.
All right.
And China One strategy,
Yeah.
I think from a customer perspective, things are certainly changing. If everything is equal, if there's an apples to apples situation between the Chinese and say India, Europe, or wherever it might be, I think customers primarily in the regulated markets are now going all the way backwards in your supply chain and trying to understand where your KSMs are coming from, how many sources you have, etc. And your final business is awarded based on that.
All right.
So I think that's why we, even within the last couple of quarters, we have been able to make significant inroads in terms of gaining market share, primarily because of this. And one last thing I'd like to add is, if you understand the history of Granules, we've been very strong on supply. Yeah, we do have minor blips here and then, but our customer and our security of supply is literally our ultimate focus, even at the cost of, absorbing some of the cost. So because of that security of supply that we've been able to provide to our customers, we have been able to gain market share even within the next couple of quarters. So the customers are certainly looking at where your raw material is coming from. So if not now, I certainly do think there is a benefit to this China Plus One strategy.
Okay, all right.
But again, you have to be dual source, and that's what we're definitely doing.
Okay, all right. Priyanka, from the stock market point of view, just two details I would like to know. One is the debt reduction. You'll have halved your debt, I think, in the last year or so. I think it's come down from around 800 to 400 crores, if you give us a brief number out there. But as you mentioned, you'll have some capex plans as well. So how do you fund this, from the internal sources, or do you see the debt moving up? So that's about the debt. And the other part is, earlier the guidance was given that your PAT will grow by around 25 to 30% in FY22. Sticking to that, right?
Yeah, 25% is definitely what we're sticking to. Now, unless there's another COVID situation, I certainly do think we can meet it.
And your debt?
So with the debt, we do plan on, I think we have a very healthy debt EBITDA ratio, and we do have some aggressive CapEx plans because that's how you grow. We have tons of products that we're still yet to commercialize, and we have about 25-30 products that are that are in R&D stages. So we do definitely see a need for CapEx for finished dosages and our API sites. And so, but whatever we do, we are going to phase it out in a way that we manage to fund them through our internal accruals. But again, the goal is to make sure that our debt EBITDA ratio is healthy. We do see a little bit of an increase in our short-term borrowings, primarily because of the quantum of increase in our US business, which is primarily front-end. And to be able to fund that sort of working capital, we do see a little bit of an increase in short-term debt. But outside of reducing our long-term debt by paying back the principal amount year on year, we don't see ourselves paying off the debt advance of time because our interest costs are rather low, and we'd rather use that money to fund our CapEx requirements.
Okay, so everything would be internal, Priyanka, and no kind of monetization of stake, something that has always been doing the rounds with regards to Granules, especially in the past couple of months, maybe a private equity on board.
I think CMD also clarified the statement a few months or weeks back. And the only reason I'm saying this again is because it has been affecting us from a customer point of view and, just from an employee perspective. We are not doing any sort of a stake sale. I'm denying it 100% again and again. We have been denying it. I think everybody in this company is 100% geared up towards, the future of this company. We're putting in a lot of, resources into the growth of the company. So we are here to stay, and we'll see this over the next couple of years.
Okay, all right, Priyanka, we're going to leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. So that is the management of Granules India saying that, yes, there has been a rise that they've seen in the bulk prices of paracetamol because of raw materials. They are looking at backward integration as well going forward in terms of the key raw materials which are used to produce paracetamol.